Hi guys, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I apologize if there's noise in the background because there's a video okay right next door and I think it's gonna catch on the microphone. And also don't mind my niece that's like over here. So today I will be wrapping up all the books that I have read throughout 2018. Some are actual physical copy version of the books and some are audiobooks and some are ebook versions. But first, an FYI, I have just started reading book this year, so all the books that I will be showing you are all the books that I have read so far. So I think there's a lot on this list, so I'm just gonna head right into it. So the very first book that I've read is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. The very first series that I completed is the Darkest Minds series, also by Alexandra Bracken. So the Darkest Minds trilogy follows the story of Ruby Dally, Zoo, Chubbs, and Leah as they fight off the government that wants to eradicate all gifted children. So the second series that I have completed is the Zodiac series by Rumina Russell. So the Zodiac series follows the story of Ro, the guardian of planet Cancer, as she travels all over the galaxy to prove that there is a threat to the 12 Zodiac planets. So the third series that I have completed this year is probably one of my favorite series of all time. And it's The Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So the first book, Illuminae, follows the story of Katie and Ezra as they try to survive the invasion of Biotech. On the first book, there's an AI going haywire and a deadly plague that threatens the entire population of the survivors from Kerenza 4. So on the second book, Gemina, follows the story of Hannah and Nick as they also try to survive another invasion from Biotech in the space station Heimdall. In the first book, Ezra and Katie tries to survive a deadly plague and an AI going haywire. On this book, Hannah and Nick tries to survive an invasion of mercenaries sent by Biotech and an alien predator that wants to kill them all. Obsidian, the very last book of the series, follows the story of Asha Grant, Katie's cousin, and her ex-boyfriend, Rhys Lindstorm. So this book is the conclusion for the Illuminae Files, and you also have Katie and Ezra, Hannah and Nick, and all the other characters from the previous book to all meet up at the very end of the book and how it will turn out for the rest of the characters. The next series that I have read is the Young Elite series by Mary Lou. So the Young Elite series follows the story of Adelina as she struggles with her power and to act revenge to those who have betrayed her. So the very first book of the Young Elites is the Young Elites book by Mary Lou, follows the story of Adelina as she discovers a very strange gift. The second book, Rose Society, still follows Adelina as she seeks revenge to those people who betrayed her. One of my favorite part of the story is that Adelina struggled to be good even though her power depends on being dark. So the next book is one of my favorite and is probably one of the top 3 favorite books of all time, and it's The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. So The Bone Witch follows the story of Thea as she ventures to become a bone witch. Thea is different from all other witches across her realm because she is not an elemental witch, but rather a bone witch, which is the most feared witches of all time. One of the reasons that I bought the book is actually the cover, and there's a tagline underneath the title which says, "Let me be clear, I never intended to raise my brother from the dead." And so that line kind of intrigues me, so that's why I bought the book, and I did not expect it, and I fell in love with it immediately. The way Rin Chupeco wrote this book is actually really brilliant because there's the past and the present and intrigues you and gives you a glimpse of what will happen at the future. So the next series is my top 1 most favorite series of all time, and I have not yet seen or read another series that will probably replace it from my top 1, and it's the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I don't have the physical copy of the other books. I only have the Empire of Storms and the Tower of Dawn copies. I have the ebook versions of the other books. so I read it in my phone. The Throne of Glass follows the story of Selena Sardotian, who turns out to be someone very special. The rest of the series follows the story of Selena and Aileen. If you have read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. And Aidan, the rest of the cast, and of course my beloved Rowan. If you have seen my previous videos, you'll know how much I love Sarah J. Maas's books. The very last book of the Throne of Glass series, which is The Kingdom of Ash, actually just released last October this year, 2018, and it was the most tear-jerking yet happy ending of all time that I have read. After reading Kingdom of Ash, I actually experienced a reading slump for like a month. I did not read any books because I was still so hungover with the Kingdom of Ash, and I still can't get over with The Lion. If you have read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So the books for the entire series is The Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, The Assassin's Blade, The Tower of Dawn, and the very last book, which is The Kingdom of Ash. So next up are all the ebook and audiobooks that I have read so far on 2018. So I have like a list of all the books that I've read, and I'm just gonna read it because I think the video is getting too long. I think. First up is the After series by Anna Todd. After we collided, after we fell, after ever after, and before follows the story of Hardin and Tessa as they both try to live their life as much as they want without the others trying to tell them what to do and how to love each other. So Hardin and Tessa's love story is actually a very good example of a toxic relationship that can be fixed. Next up is the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness, The A Discovery of Witches, The Book of Life, and Shadow of Night. So I found the All Souls trilogy because they had a series adaptation in UK. I think it's in UK, which is entitled A Discovery of Witches, which stars Theresa Palmer and Matthew Goode. I'm still quite confused how to pronounce his name. Next is the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. Fallen, Torment, Passion, Rapture, and Unforgiven. So I only read this series because I have seen the movie and was not very satisfied. Sama!
Wait, sakit ka. Gosh.
So I only read the series because I've seen the movie, and I think the premise of the story was actually really great. A fallen angel, and then there's this girl, and then every century or every specific time the girl keeps on resurrecting, and this time, because she was not baptized, she will not be resurrecting if she dies. So I think it's a really good story, but I think they didn't really explain that much on the movie, so I think there was lacking in the movie. And when I read the book, it was actually really great, and I fell in love with their story. Next is The Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. Fallen Kingdoms, Frozen Tide, Crystal Storm, Gathering Darkness, Immortal Reign, and Rebel Spring. So there's actually a lot of characters that is the main in this story, and in every chapter there's a change on the point of view, so it's a little bit confusing because there's a lot going on in the entire series, but I think the story was still great, and I love the ending. Another is Fallen Isles by Jodi Meadows. It's still an uncompleted series. It still has a 2-book, and the 3rd book or the conclusion of the entire series will be released in I think 2019 or 2020. I still don't know. First book of the Fallen Isles trilogy is the Before She Ignites, which follows the story of Miramin Kuba as she is betrayed by the council that she trusted the most and is sent to the prison called the Pit. Another book that I have read is The Graceling by Christine Cashore. So Graceling is an entire series, but I've only read the first book and have not yet had the chance to read the second and the 3rd book. Another trilogy that I've finished is the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. So Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and The Ruin and Rising. So the story for the Grishaverse is actually really cool because it's fight between darkness and light. Like literally the villain's power is dark, and the protagonist's power is light or sun. So another series that I've read is one of the best-selling series of all time, and it's one of the most famous book adaptations that has ever graced the big screen. If there are other book adaptations, a lot of people compare those adaptations to this series, and it's a Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer. So Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn follows the story of Edward and Bella as they both fight for their love and their freedom from the Volturi. So the Volturi comes like on the second to the last book, but on the very first book, Bella and Edward struggles to accept their reality that they both love each other. And then there's also the story of Jacob, the werewolves, the vampires, and the newborns. So the next book is actually a standalone high fantasy novel, and it's one of the best high fantasy recommendation books that I have read in 2018, and it's The Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. So the story has a lot more romance than action and magic, but I still love their story, going through the different realms, the winter, the summer, the spring. So another book that I've read is Heartforger by Rin Chupeco, which is actually the sequel for The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. So there's a lot more drama in Heartforger than in Bone Witch because it still follows the story of Thea. And finally, in the second book, there's romance, there's love story, and I am very excited what will happen to Thea and the guy that she finally chooses. So that would be all the books that I have read throughout 2018, and I hope you enjoyed the year as much as I did. For more videos, you can check out my channel, you can click the subscription button below, you can like the video, or you can leave a comment down below. I'll see you in the next video.